Welcome to page 13 of Novashadow. In this video, we're going to be talking about many topics, all relating to intense feelings and emotions. We're going to talk about heartbreak, compassion, forgiveness, love, perceptions of love, awareness, clarity, cord cutting, the heart chakra, grief, grudges, healing, judgment, friendship, and boundaries. So in order for me to make this video, I had to go through a lot of all of these topics and get clarity on all these things and try to find a way to navigate my own healing and try to gain peace, to gain clarity. And there was a lot that was interplaying in the midst of all these topics. Part of it was, my dysregulated nervous system, which I didn't know I had. Another part of it was like a lot of frustration and confusion, because while I was struggling trying to reach my own healing and deal with my own grief, the ego mind kept bothering me, and it kept circling over and over again. And the cycles of grief can be very vicious amongst all of these things. And it's just like, I don't know how long exactly it, all this had to build up in order for me to figure out how to have the peace that I'm looking for, and how to navigate this ego, this confusion, this you keep going in loops and keep going in loops. We have ideas of what healing looks like and what love looks like, and what friendship is and what boundaries are, and forgiveness, right? What does it mean to have compassion? Is there any wisdom to heartbreak? So I wrote down some questions here that I'm going to be answering, but not one by one, but I'm just going to be, I guess, telling a story, and it's going to, all these questions are going to have answers as I move forward. So, how did I experience heartbreak, betrayal, and grief? How was I able to forgive betrayal, overcome grief and heartbreak, and release grudges and return back to inner peace and compassion? What is healing? What is cord cutting? What does it mean to heal and open the heart chakra? How does our ego mind get stuck in cycles and stages of grief, confusion, judgment? What is love, types of love, and perceptions of love? What is emotional pain? How do we have clarity to overcome the grief of heartbreak, grudges, judgment, and return to the inner peace of compassion? How do we open our hearts? And the topic is all related to the heart. It's so significant to open the heart. One of the, I guess, ever since around the time I've awakened, I think it must have been maybe 1.5 to 2 years after my awakening. I'm not sure, but it was somewhere early. It was somewhere early in my awakening. It was my goal to open my heart. And I had multiple reasons for this because, and this is just my perspective, and by the way, I don't mean to tell anybody how to heal or how to forgive or how to release grudges. I don't want to tell you what you should or shouldn't do, because I'm going to leave that up to you. And I don't want to sound condescending or judgmental, because I mean to be very sensitive and compassionate with what I say. Um, okay, so just like bear that in mind. But yes, I wanted to open my heart because it would have, based on my understanding at the time, like it would have helped me be able to communicate with my spirit guides. It would have been easier for me to have like all the benefits of an open heart chakra. But the most important thing to me was like, being able to communicate with my spirit guides better. And I'm not saying that you have to have an open heart to communicate with your guides. I've definitely done so before in the past and like synchronistically got answers, um, you know, but that is a different video for a different time. This is something I'm mentioning because I actually was trying to learn cord cutting, and it was very difficult because for those of you who don't know, I actually do dream interpretation, and when it comes to problems in our heart chakra, our dreams will actually show us where the problem is and where it lies, and where the pain is, and how to overcome it. That's something that most people like do not know, because dream interpretation is kind of a rare gift. It's not really something that's talked about, and I gotta say, when I learned how to do that, then it was very, very clear to me on the healing that I needed to have. No, the thing is that was difficult for me with cord cutting is because I had a very hard time relaxing. Very hard time relaxing. I would do so much to try to relax, and I could never relax. And I was like spending most of my day just trying to relax, and I just like couldn't relax. I even I meditated every day for 2 years, thinking that I would like be a master by that time, and I wasn't, and it didn't really give me that kind of peace that I was hoping for, and I just put in a lot of effort and time into trying to deal with this because I would get so stressed out. Eventually it would just become worse and worse, and I will start to get like muscle pain. I'll start to like feel bad for being sensitive. I'll start to feel like I don't belong in the world. Like I'll start to feel like I'm like always so vulnerable. And this is relating to everything, okay? So it's not off topic. But if you're somebody who has a hard time relaxing, who's tried a bunch of things, who like, if you're like me, you probably tried like a lot of these things to relax, and like they'll work sometimes, and then you think you have it, and you think you have your thing that's like your thing to relax, and then it stops working suddenly out of nowhere. If you've if you've like struggled to be creative or to create or to make things because of how stressed out you are, if it's like literally to that point, like if you've ever been like frustrated with that, like it seems like to me there was like no answers. Like it doesn't matter how much I tried or how much I did, and even so it was stressful trying to figure out how to stop having stress. So over time I started to figure how all these things are connected, but at the time I only knew like a little bit of information, and it wasn't until way later that I started to like truly understand what am I actually trying to achieve, and what am I actually trying to do, and like how important it is, versus just like the little bits and pieces here that made me even like go down that path, even made me want to try these things, even made me want to do this, and I cared a lot about responsibility and self-help and self-care, but I didn't realize that I had a dysregulated nervous system. And it's like, honestly, there is not a lot of information on how to regulate the nervous system. And even though there are many things you can try, it's it's just like you can try things so much, and those things may not work, and then you just get so tired of trying. But at the same time, it's like if you get tired of trying, then you don't have any solution to your stressed out problem, so now you're more stressed out to try, but then you also remain stressed out if you try, you don't try. Like it doesn't it's like no matter what you do or what direction you go, like you still have this problem. And a lot of people can put a lot of time and effort into like trying to figure it out. So there's like, there's some exercises, there's like cold water showers, there's like breath work, there's, diet, fasting, qigong, like there's like so much you can do. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff. People have, I don't know, I think a lot of people are just really stressed out. It's very strange. I think that's how people kind of naturally do things. I don't know, maybe they're just not as sensitive as we are. But I kind of have a suspicion that the more sensitive we are emotionally, it's because we feel things very deeply. And I think that's incredibly tied to our nervous system. And so when our nervous system gets threatened, and you go through a lot of pain and struggling and fear and a lot of trauma, and some of you who've been on my channel will know that I've been through a lot, especially growing up, that like over time your body starts to become wired for stress, and it starts to look for stress, and it starts to look for fear, and and then like the shadow work gets involved, right? And you're just kind of living life based on these things because like you don't know how to regulate your nervous system. And guess what? I did not regulate or get my nervous system more regulated where I actually felt amazing until I learned how to cut cords, which is like interesting. So anyway, going back, why was it hard for me to learn cord cutting? Well, a lot of the people who were offering cord cutting as a service, and there's different kinds of cord cutting. There's like meditation, psychotherapy, there's energy work practitioners who can facilitate a session. I guess for most people it's like meditation, right? I guess the easiest, most accessible would be meditation. Now, so some of these cost more money than others. That's just the way it is. Sometimes people can't like afford that. So like the next best thing would be to like either learn the energy work yourself or meditate. But here's the thing. If you already have a dysregulated nervous system and it's so bad, you probably won't be able to meditate anyways. Because you can't like break out of that. So it's a really weird thing because like the energy cords can actually cause you to have a dysregulated nervous system. Who knew? And then it's like, so your nervous system is so dysregulated that you can't meditate, but then it's like, if you wanted to cut cords, then most people would recommend you meditate. It's like for a lot of like spiritual like practices, it's always meditation, this meditation, that. It's like the most accessible, practical skill that you can learn is meditation. But then your nervous system is so fucked up that you can't actually gain the benefits of meditation. So it's like, it's really weird, right? And this is at least just my experience. I have never really met anybody who has an experience like mine, but if you have, this might give you some insight. So cord cutting and energy cords, don't know so much on how to describe it, but this kind of goes back into dream interpretation. So your dreams will actually tell you the people you need to cut cords from. And for a lot of us, it is going to be our parents, um, because we're that's where a lot of our limiting beliefs come from. First of all, based on like how we're raised, it doesn't even matter if if they're your biological parents or if you were adopted, or if you don't even know your parents. Like you still, um, as far as I understand, you need to cut cords with our parents, because a lot of us have like an enmeshed identity or a enmeshed ego, um, and that kind of sets the tone for like our future and the rest of our life. Um, so you can imagine I had lots of dreams, or even like my nightmares, like of my own parents. Um, or if you and some of these dreams can be very they can be very intense. All right. But I can, other than like some really like hurtful experiences you've had with some people, you probably would want to cut cords with that as well, with them as well. So, so I had to like cut cords with my parents, had to cut cords with, things relating to my time in a religious cult. Just like other people or places that were oppressive, like I was energetically like holding on to these things. And I just gotta say, I knew like a little bit that yes, cord cutting was necessary for me, but I didn't realize exactly how much it affects a person. And it affects a person so intensely that it's honestly kind of not fair that most people don't even know this exists. And it's honestly kind of not fair that a lot of people who are suffering from this problem have their nervous system so dysregulated, so fucked up, that like they can't even relax. Like they're always stuck in their masculine thinking, analyzing, planning, like they're always stuck in their mind. They're always stuck in their ego, and they don't have any of that yin. They don't get to relax. They don't get to reflect. They don't get to be still, to have presence, and it's really insane. Like honestly, and I'm just speaking for myself. I can't even imagine what it's like for other people who aren't even like aware or awakened, or like even considering like this is a possible way to help themselves, because a lot of people just don't know this even exists, or it's not very accessible to them, or they can't really afford it, or it's like even like DIY can be difficult when your nervous system is already dysregulated. So the question is, well, how on earth did I do this if I couldn't meditate because I was so dysregulated, and I didn't really have the funds to like get like professional cord cutting done, and things like that. And another thing is that cord cutting, it requires you to be ready for it. It kind of requires for you um, to be ready to let go of this energy. And a lot of people tend to bring it back to them because they haven't really, like, I guess in a sense, like they haven't really understood like the compassion and wisdom of and clarity of what it means. I think this has to do with forgiveness. But this does happen. People try to cut cords and then the cords just come back. You see, with the energy cords, we give energy to where that cord is attached, and to where that cord is attached gives energy back to us. Okay, so basically with my own parents, I have cords with them, they have cords with me. And whenever things would happen that were negative, the energy was like going back and forth between that the entire time, where I was giving energy to it and it was giving energy to me. Now, energy cords can affect our body, and they can affect our feelings, and they can wreak havoc on our nervous systems. And I don't have a list of everything that chords can do that can be oppressive to a person, and not only like energetically oppressive, but like there's literally so much that I don't even like want to go into it at this time. Um, but I did learn a little bit, at least informationally, on cord cutting from a course on Udemy. And I started to like look at all the details of like how it works and what this is. And I was like really shocked to see what was there, because I was like, wait a second. I have a dysregulated nervous system. And I also have cords that I don't know how to cut yet, you know? So, you know, I'm not going to say like what's possible or what isn't possible for you. I'm just saying like if you can relate to me, you might have some kind of, you know, clarity based on what I'm saying. I, so how did I learn to cut cords? Well, basically I used angel magic. A lot of people don't really like magic or occultism or whatever. I guess that's their thing. You know, people would prefer energy work, I guess, or meditation. You know, there's different ways to do the same thing. I've already listed, you know, like psychotherapy is even an option. There's many ways to do this, and I can't really attest to um, what would work for you or what would work the best, or anything like that. It's just there's just many ways to do the same thing. But here's the thing. Excuse me. Okay. Having a dysregulated nervous system makes everything you do a lot harder. Okay, it makes it a lot harder to focus. Makes it a lot harder to learn. It makes it makes it a lot harder to like get the benefit of self-care. And that's how I felt. It felt like I was doing all these things, being responsible as possible, trying to regulate my nervous system, trying to relax, trying to, you know, and sometimes I could, but very, very few rare times where I actually could. But none of it was like, it was not even comparable to what happened to me when I cut cords with my parents. So I used angel magic. So the thing about what I like about magic is that it doesn't really require a regulated nervous system. Um, you know, it's like I was still able to do it. Magic is its own process and it works its own way. So I could just like trust in that process rather than being like hyper fixated on like whether or not like I'm relaxed enough. So it was magical for me, very magical, and I felt very blessed because like I've been struggling trying to understand how to get this to work for me. Um, okay, so I'm going into the nervous system because this is also tied to the heart chakra. Okay, this is also tied to our emotions. This is also tied to like the unseen ways that you know we're being energetically affected, and how even like our own thoughts and everything just starts to loop and stuff like that. So okay, so I mentioned what is cord cutting. um you know, if you don't know anything about what cord cutting is, you can just learn about it, ask some people. I think my friend John Binney does cord cutting too, so you know, so explore that if you like. But this should definitely, I honestly I think it would help everybody honestly to be able to cut etheric cord. Speaking from experience, okay, so I'm just speaking from experience. Um, yeah, I've been like waiting a very long time to be able to do that because I tried um, doing it myself. I've tried, and I couldn't do it myself. I couldn't like do the energy work to do it because I was so like I was so dysregulated that it was just like it was just so hard for me to learn how to do it. And another thing is like I would need a partner according to like where I was learning it from, and it's like it was just so hard for me to even like find anybody at that point. So I was just kind of like stuck in limbo, trying to take care of myself the best I can, do whatever I can um, to do that. Okay. Um, there's just a whole bunch of like how everything just like gets like involved in this now. Um, Now for me, in the mindset that I was in at the time, like I've already, I think that was like, when did I cut cords? I think it was like in February this year. Um, yeah, I think so. Yeah. And, I was just like ready to like let go of these cords. Like I really did not like have a care in the world as far as like, what my parents are doing or whatever. It's like whatever is on the other side of cord cutting, it's like I will just release and I will just let go, because like the rest of my life and for a long time after my awakening, I've been trying to achieve this, and so it was very important to me, and it was so beautiful. Now, the book that I was working with, it's not really a cord cutting book. It's a book on magic, angel magic, and I felt very blessed because I've been looking for something that could actually work, that would actually work for me, because I have a dysregulated nervous system, and for a while it's like I was losing hope because I thought like I was not going to be able to cut cords. I'm not going to be able to relax enough. Like I'm not going to like have the money to do it, or to hire someone to do it. So I just kind of was like, damn, like am I just like am I just stuck here? And then of course my dreams would tell me like, hey, you need to cut cords, and it's different symbolism, because it was showing me where there was I guess you could say, for lack of better words, like a heart blockage or something. And of course, not even to mention like when you have shadows that you need to deal with, and you you just have to like live life the best you can. And it's just like I don't know how to describe this kind of like passive suffering, but like you're still trying to take care of yourself. But it just seemed to me like no matter what I did, I couldn't get a leg up. Like I couldn't get the advantage. Like I couldn't find what I was looking for. And it was just so important to me. And it was just like, am I just stuck? Because that's what it felt like. I felt like I was stuck. I'm like, a lot of spiritual practices require meditation, and lo and behold, it's like I got issues and I can't meditate. I can't like get into it. Like it's just a very foundational thing. Like if you do anything for like, align the chakras, it'll be like, oh, a meditation. If it were something like talk to your spirit guides, it would be like a meditation. If like anything, it would always be a meditation. And it's just like, I get it, but like, do people not realize like a lot of people awakened, or especially, a lot of them have gone through very traumatic problems, issues, especially when they were young. And by the time either they awaken or even become aware that cord cutting is a thing, they're probably going to have a very fucked up, dysregulated nervous system. And so it seemed very like a bit insensitive to like have everything be a meditation, when in fact a lot of people, a lot of starseeds like are having nervous system dysregulation issues that make it very, very difficult for them to meditate. So I guess everyone's dysregulation is different, but like mine was like really fucked up, okay, and it was very scary. It was very confusing. It was very frustrating, and it put me in a lot of like hopelessness. And it's like, well, I can't be hopeless, because if I'm hopeless, then I stop trying. And if I stop trying, then I definitely won't get anywhere. But then if I keep trying, well, then I get so tired of trying that that I become burnt out, and I would just keep getting burnt out because my dysregulated nervous system was preventing me from relaxing in the first place. So it was just kind of like this vicious loop, this vicious cycle that was just like insane for me to go through. And it just made me feel, it made me realize, like, is this why it's so hard to take care of ourselves? Like, you know, like, because all it takes is for you to have a dysregulated nervous system, and then you get hit with some kind of emotional distress that you don't know how to regulate, and then it's like, how do you come down from that? Like, how do you chill out other than just like hope that time makes it a little bit easier? But like when you're very sensitive and you feel things very deeply, to the extent that pretty much nobody understands, or no one would know how to give compassion to, or people will just, they'll just be really insensitive to your sensitivity, to how hard it is for you to relax. You get burnt out very easily, and it's just, this is just one of the many foundational things that made it hard for me to like even function in society. Not only that, like I also had problems sleeping, and a dysregulated nervous system can cause that. And it can also like cause like different health issues. And so like I would end up being so stressed out, like I would have problems sleeping, I would have problems relaxing, I would have muscle tension that was pretty bad. Like my eye would start twitching, have more nightmares. At one point I was having a lot of nightmares, which was really scary. And sometimes I would actually, try to do a little bit of magic to try to help regulate my nervous system, to have at least just some kind of relief, and I'm not really diagnosed per se, but when I kind of put like all of my symptoms together, it kind of felt like subclinical PTSD, where it's like kind of, it's not really full on PTSD, but it's like little bits like that kind of it's like a lesser, like it's like a less strong version of like PTSD, but that's what at least it felt like to me. There was a time where I casted magic to help regulate my nervous system, and I kind of got this download to listen to like music to relieve PTSD. And I'm not really diagnosed or anything, and I wouldn't say like I have subclinical PTSD, because I kind of gotten a lot better since then. But anyway, I listened to the meditation music. Hold on. Okay. I listened to the meditation music, and I started crying and I started relaxing. So it was like, it must have been the thing that I needed. And then that was like, it was amazing to me, because like I can't tell you like how difficult this was for me to live, to function, to like love myself, and like be grateful for like how much work I'm doing, because it's like a very, it almost makes me feel disabled. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like it made me feel like I'm a disabled person. Like I just, it's, I can't seem to fucking chill out. I can't seem to like get anywhere. I can't seem to move. Like I can't seem to like get the benefit of how much I'm trying to take care of myself. Okay. I know I talked a lot about that, but I just felt like that was important, because now we're gonna move on to other things. So what was this I was talking about? Oh yeah, the heart chakra. So yeah, so when I cut cords with my parents. They were causing blockages in my heart chakra, and then from there, I opened my heart. And because it opened my heart, my nervous system felt amazing, and I was like so relaxed, and I was actually vibing super high, and it was so cool. I had this euphoric experience, and it's like a familiar experience. It's like you feel young, like you feel happy. It's like it was like life before your heart was closed. And I don't know, it was just an amazing thing. And like my thoughts were like so elevated, and I felt like so special in this world. I felt like a part of something bigger, even though like my world might seem kind of small. But then it's like I could like zoom in and like zoom out of like the purpose of everything, and how everything was created, like for me. But it's like an interdependence type of thing. Like it's all necessary. It's like everything the way that it is the way it should be. And one of the things about having an open heart chakra is that your ability to forgive is there. Like you're more at peace, you're more loving, you're calmer. You have like an intuition as far as like what you need to be doing. Like you're more into feeling, you're more into intuition. And it's less about the mind, because the mind is like, gotta do this, gotta do that. But like the heart is like, you know, I feel like I can, or I feel like I should meditate right now, and it's not because like you wrote it down or you told yourself to do it. It's like you just feel it and you're just there. And it was so cool. And after the fact, it made me realize like how much I've been in my masculine energy and working so much and trying so much and in my head so much that I didn't even realize like just um, how much stillness that I needed, how much peace I needed, like daily. Um, yeah, and as far as I knew, it opened my heart. At least that's the best way I could describe it, and that's what I was, at least taught. It's what it would do for me to open my heart. And that's also partially, how I kind of learned to forgive, at least like vibrationally, by cutting cords. Okay. It's a lot easier to forgive when you're not stressed out. I could say that. Um, okay, so what's going on? What's the next topic? Okay, so we talked about cord cutting. We talk about a regulated nervous system, how it relates to the heart chakra. Oh yeah, and ever since then, like I've been sleeping better. I can actually meditate now without like falling asleep, and I can actually enjoy it, and I will actually like crave it, and it's really awesome. Um, and I'm getting a lot more excited to be able to like pursue more of my spiritual stuff, because I'm able to relax and I'm able to meditate. Okay. So I'm trying to figure out like how to segue for what I was talking about to other things. Okay. So I was just able to cut cords with my parents. Sometimes grief can be so bad that it's like hard to cut cords, or there's like still things you need to do um, in order to cut cords. And I don't know how to describe, like, other than like what you just need to be ready to release a person, to let go. And it's like a very, like, how do I even tell a person to do that? Like, how do I tell a person to do that? Um, I don't really, I can only like just share my own experience, but I don't really know many people or know of like others that at least can share that experience of like, how do you get to that point? Because I know some people who do cord cutting, but I don't know people who've like struggled with letting go, that they could actually like do it. But yeah, Okay, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that any further. Next, I'm still thinking. Okay, so, okay, heartbreak, betrayal, and grief. So I've experienced this a lot in the past year. And I had one instance in particular 4 years ago that was also pretty bad. I've had people, and I don't really like to use this word like betrayal because it's such a dualistic word. And I know like for different people, it's not going to look like betrayal to them versus like me. So I don't want to use betrayal in like in a way that accuses another person because I'm just like I am so um like far from that perspective of seeing it as betrayal. But like on the surface level ego perspective, it is betrayal. Like on like in speaking terms of navigating language, it is betrayal. But like emotionally, like spiritually, like with the clarity that I have, it's like I don't see it like betrayal in a sense that that makes me like want to like accuse anybody, you know, in any particular way. I just kind of see it all as like you like how do I explain? Okay, so the ego gets confused. It experiences these things like betrayal. Um, this is having to do with forgiveness, okay? So experiences things like betrayal. Starts to hold grudges. It starts to get angry. And it starts to go through what has been recognized as the stages of grief. One particular problem I had with grief, and I didn't really have a problem with it until like 4 years ago when I had an instance happen to me. I I would go forth between, it would be like denial, then it would be anger, then it'd be like depression, and then it would be hope. And hope is not really something that's like officially on the stages of grief, but hope is one of the things that I had, hoping that whatever situation that caused me to feel this grief would, like it would stop, or there would be, things would get better, things would change, or the person in question would, like we would sort things out, like things would be okay. Um, and in little ways, we also kind of experience these things here and there when it comes to emotional pain. So emotional pain often is separation withdrawal, because we desire wholeness, and that's what makes it hurt so much. And it's that pain of separation that is like what makes it, it's what shows us how much we really care about wholeness, how much we really care about love. And that's why it hurts. It's because you have a heart is why it hurts. But sometimes this happens so often and so many times, like especially within our own parents or with like anything we've dealt with in life, where little by little we start to feel that pain of separation until we start to actually feel separated. And there's different intensities of separation. Um, in my cult series, I don't know if you've seen it, I did talk about, you know, pain and separation. I did talk about division and separation. I did talk about how, from not only an emotional standpoint and an abuse standpoint, it basically, it got so intense that I got a, what I called consciousness abuse. Like my vibrational consciousness was like so low. It was in shame. it was in guilt, and it was like the types of feelings I had, the types of thoughts I had, and um the limiting beliefs I've had about myself were very, very dark and sad and depressing, but also very, very, very angry. I was just stuck in these low vibrations, and it was because like religion had created these limiting beliefs that separated me from source, and so I felt the pain of being separated from source, you could say. And I wouldn't say necessarily fully separated. It was a very intense thing to go through. Um, but this is what I'm saying, when it comes to emotional pain, we can feel it from different ranges, from like our relationship to, you could call God. And at the time when I was in religion, God is different from the way I relate to source now. It's evolved. And I made a video on like how I healed my relationship with source in that particular way, because I actually did have a problem. Was it last year or so, where I kind of got into this spiral of like my relationship to God, um, and that was that was initiated through a friendship of mine at the time. But anyways, um, it's that's what emotional pain is. It's the pain of separation. So we can experience this from like a more like spiritual perspective on like our purpose and whatever, or you could see it more from like different levels of love, from where it's like love from friendships, love from our parents, love for ourselves, you know and and that's what makes things like painful. And enough of these things can cause a person to close down their heart, because it is so painful, and the heart chakra is trying to protect itself, and of course our ego is trying to protect ourselves too, right? It's there to perpetuate the sense of self, and the ego doesn't really care if it's a healthy sense of self or if it's not. It's just trying to protect you in the best way it knows it can. And I think I spoke about this in my other Novashadow videos, about like the mechanisms of the ego. Now we're going to keep going into the mechanisms of the ego, because this is where I'm going to talk more about the stages of grief, right? So I got really stuck on hope, and then I would like get stuck on the stage of hope, but hope wasn't acceptance. So as long as I was hoping, I was like, I was not being able to go into the step of acceptance. And then I would be frustrated because I would have so much hope and it would yield nothing other than like delay the inevitable, that I'm still stuck in this grief, not knowing how to like fucking move on and how to have that peace. Um, so hope was just like wishing that things could be better, so that way I wouldn't have to deal with this pain anymore. But I'm still experiencing the pain. That's why I'm even having the hope. It's just a way to like put a bandage on like a bigger picture, like I mean on a bigger issue. I mean, um, and so you got to be careful with that one. Sometimes like, sometimes people think that, hope can be like a good thing, and sometimes, but like other times, like if it can go on for too long, that it just makes you frustrated. And then you get angry, and then you get sad, and then you get angry, and then you get sad, and then it's like grief kind of like goes over and over again. Like this is what I'm saying. It's a cycle. Okay. So going back into cycles, like our ego is always trying to like understand something. And when it doesn't understand something emotionally, it makes us feel bad, really. And then so like we have these bad thoughts, and then the bad thoughts make bad emotions, and then our body makes the reactions to those emotions and those thoughts, and then it just goes in a loop, and it goes in a loop, and it goes in a loop, and that's what it does. Like your mind affects your feelings affect your body, and then your feelings affect your thoughts, and then that affects your body. And so like it just goes in a loop, and then your ego is like stuck in this situation of like, why did this person hurt me, why did this person betray me, why did this person abandon me, why, like, it's like, why, or it's like, or sometimes it becomes like not even a why, it becomes like judgmental, like how dare they should know better, how could they do this to me, so, and then other times we get angry and we start to hold grudges and are like, I really, really hate this person because they did this to me and they did this to me and they did that to me and I really didn't deserve it. And like over time, this starts to become a story. This starts to become an identity. This starts to become a label, a role. Like we kind of get sucked into this category and it's like, and we just kind of live our life based on this, and it's not very fun. And another time it's like sometimes it can even be hard to even like say how you feel, because other people will like be mad at you, or not be mad at you. They might judge you for being angry. They might judge you for being sad. They might judge you for not forgiving, and like, sometimes people will like moralize what you should or shouldn't do, how you should handle your healing, how you should handle your pain, how you should forgive, and how you should stop being angry, and how, like everyone's gonna like do it their own way, but like don't tell people what they should or shouldn't do, because it's only gonna like because it hurts. It hurts to do that to a person. It's not really going to help them anyways, and a person has to like figure that out for themselves. Sometimes people like have a near-death experience and then they realize, what, like I don't need to be angry anymore, or I need to be forgiving, or like I think I need to change, and sometimes that's what it takes for that person. For me in particular, it was just like awful to go through these feelings, and it wasn't just that experience I had like 4 years ago with a person, but it was, also like recently, around, not recently, but I think it was last year, and it's just like the things just like, you just go in this cycle of like trying to understand, going through hope, going through anger, going through depression, going through maybe guilt, going through denial, and like hanging on to hope. And it's like you just keep going and going and going. And then it's like it would feel like this, where sometimes I felt like I was okay. And then I wasn't. It just goes, it's like, it's kind of like when you cry about something and then you're done crying, and then like you think you're fine, and then like maybe like a few days later or a week later or a month later you're like crying over the same thing. That's what it feels like, or it's just like it just like consumes your mind, and it's like you just gotta like vent to people and say, this is so awful. It's like, oh, you just gotta like share some of what you're feeling can actually be helpful and therapeutic, but like holding on to this for too long, it can be awful for your health. And, going in a loop back and forth is like, it's just not healthy, but anyway, I don't know if I have anything else to say about that in particular. But yeah, I've experienced, heartbreak. I've experienced betrayal. I've experienced the stages of grief, and I was like really having a hard time, trying to deal with this. And for some time, I was still having a dysregulated nervous system on top of like feeling this grief and this pain, which was like really, really awful. And on top of that, at the time, I was also dealing with psychic attacks as well. And it's just, it's just like a lot to deal with emotionally. And I would just get fed up, talking about it with some friends kind of helps, but I would just, eventually the loop would just start all over again. And it was just, I was just annoyed, because it's like, yes, I'm suffering, and like, yes, um, that's the way it is, and it's unfortunate it happened to me, but like, my mind is just like, I'm just tired of feeling this way. I'm just tired, like, I don't want to think about this anymore, and I don't mean it in like I'm going to start doing drugs or something, or like, like avoid my feelings. I mean, like, I want this to stop. Like, I need the clarity. I need to figure out how am I going to forgive. Um, so here's the thing. When you have a closed heart chakra, you have a dysregulated nervous system, it's kind of hard um, to forgive. Okay, so like there's like the question, well, how do you forgive? Well, I can't really say, anything in particular on like reasons why you should forgive. Because I already know, I already have those reasons for myself, and even that wasn't enough, for me to just like get over my grief, you know. So I did some magic. I did some magic to help me overcome my grief, and I got the clarity that I needed. And the clarity that I needed is basically what I'm telling you now, is just like the ego is trying to understand, but the ego was never meant to understand. It's because you're trying to understand the betrayal or the person or the why or the how, um, that's what causes the suffering. The judgment that you put on a person is also like the ego doing that. And here's the thing, when you allow, I won't say allow because it sounds condescending, but let's just say for some circumstance or whatever, it happens to be that another person's low vibration or another person's behavior or what another person does to you or betrays you or whatever, if that causes you to be judgmental of them, you've lowered your vibration to them. And the other person may not even understand. The other person may not even apologize. The other person doesn't even have your awareness of like what you went through. And then meanwhile, you're holding on to all this grief and you're being judgmental and you're being like back and forth and you're crying and then like all this, like it's just a lot. Okay. Um, I don't know, and I just gotta say, like, when you want to stop feeling this pain, you can, shut down that emotion sometimes. But when you do that, you actually shut down all other emotions. Sometimes people think that like healing from grief is like the grief is gone. The grief is it's completely gone. I don't feel anything at all. And that's what you might expect the healing from grief to look like. But that's actually not. So like I said, what is emotional pain? It is the separation from your wholeness. That's what it is. It's the pain of separation. So there was a person that I was like grieving over like 4 years ago. And I did magic to help me overcome this grief in particular. And little did I know that this magic to help me overcome my grief would actually help me overcome grief that I had a year ago since after then. I think that's the right way to say it. So yeah, I figured out through that ritual, and honestly, I just had to be honest. Like, I'm going to be honest. I was like, I'm not really a vengeful person, and I do think that negative emotions, can be healthy to some extent. It's just when they go on for too long, then it becomes a problem, and it's becoming to a point where, like, I'm not vindictive, and I'm not really like a hateful person. And I'm the kind of person that would love forgiveness, that would want things to turn out good, that I've hung on for hope for so long, for like the other person and things like that. So I have like this very, like, I guess you could say, like, peaceful mindset that doesn't really, just always wants to give like the benefit of the doubt, but that doesn't mean that I can't ignore how I feel, and that I'm going to have to go through these stages of grief because it is painful and it's just a natural part of human life. So I casted magic to do that, because it was like wisdom in me to realize, you know what, I can't do this by myself. I can't. So, but that's just my way of doing it. Now, I don't know. I guess people go to therapy to overcome grief. I didn't do that. I mean, I did have a few friends, that were helpful and that listened and that understood, and held space for me, and that kind of helps. So I can't really say exactly like how you should handle your grief, but this is how I chose to handle it, and it worked for me. So I'm just sharing that with you guys. It's just the ego mind's just trying to understand this grief. And I guess there could be grief from like loss, as in like maybe like someone passed away, or it could be grief like over a friendship that you no longer have, or it could be from a person that betrayed you, or a person like where there's some kind of betrayal, where there's some kind of like heartbreak, where there's some kind of like that emotion that causes you to feel like that separation. Okay, but just know that separation and division is an illusion. Now this is just one of the things that I'm saying. Like, I don't want to sound insensitive when I say this, because yes, you can like try to think of it mentally as far as like, reasons to forgive, or at least like, it's not a mental thing. It's not a mental thing. It's a feelings thing. Okay. So like, even if you can say like positive things to like help you move along your grief, or to help you move along your heartbreak, or to help you move along into forgiveness, or to help you, those are just positive things to be said. And, it's one thing when you say them, but it's another thing when you experience it. So I don't mean to come off as insensitive. So I don't want to, tell you like how you should or shouldn't handle it. There's some sayings like happiness is a choice. There's some sayings like, being angry and holding grudges is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. There's these kinds of, I guess like truthful sayings in a sense. But like they're kind of misplaced when like a person is actually going through it. So it's not like honestly the best thing to say to somebody, to be honest. And sometimes it can feel like a bit like condescending and like insensitive to like tell a person that, because it's not really what they need to hear, because it's, I guess for some people it could be, but maybe they just have to realize it on their own. But like, just be aware and sensitive. Like, everyone's going to deal with their healing very differently, and everyone's going to have their own perspectives and very differently. And, we kind of have this expectation that like of what healing looks like, but I gotta tell you, it's gonna look different for everybody. And for me, healing was, cutting cords, and it was, doing magic, angel magic to help me heal from my grief. It was to help me gain the clarity that I needed to overcome it. And then I got the download, and that's when I realized, like, I never needed to understand. The ego wants to understand, but I don't need to understand. And once I let go of trying to understand, then, and I realized, like, the experiencing, like, the the emotional pain I'm feeling is really just the pain of separation. And once I was able to let go of the ego that I was trying to understand, that was suffering because it couldn't understand, then I was able to open my heart and not look at it through like an egotistical lens. And I'm kind of losing my train of thought here. I'm trying to remember what else I was going to say. Yeah, it's just like I never needed to understand. Oh yeah, and another thing. Okay, so that was part of the grief, the magic that I did to overcome grief. The other magic that I did, I think I must have done it once or twice, but there was another realization I got. Oh shoot, I just forgot what it was. Hold on, I'm gonna remember it. Oh yes, so when I initially, wanted to cast magic to heal from my grief, I was expecting to not feel emotion, to not feel that negative emotion. But I kind of already knew, I guess I forgot at the time, but I forgot like when you shut down one emotion, it affects all others. And then when you can't express your emotions like freely, then it actually causes a lot of anger to do that, which can make you lash out and can make you yell and can make you have like anger tantrums, and it calms you down for a bit, calms your body down, but then like you still have the problem, so then like just another time later you'll get angry again and lash out again, and it just depends on like how bad it is. Okay, but at the time, I thought the magic to help me heal from this grief of betrayal would like help me not feel this pain anymore. Like I would stop feeling this pain. That's what I was expecting. But instead, it made me love the person even more. And I was so confused. And I was so confused. I was like, why? Like, no, like I don't like like this is like the exact opposite of what I want. Is like, why did I need to love? Like, I don't want to feel this pain. Like it was because I love that I feel this pain. Like, I don't want to love this person even more. Like, and I realized like that's like the love is the connectedness. That's the wholeness that actually helps you heal, is the love. And it's a weird type of love, see, here's the thing. Like, there's perceptions of love and there's types of love. There is the kind of love that you prefer. Okay, so when I'm talking about love, you can be unconditionally loving, but this doesn't mean that you don't have boundaries. Okay, so very quickly, I did explain in another video of mine on I think it was emotional intelligence, and yeah, it was emotional intelligence. It was like a 2-part series, and then it went into like what was it called? What's the word? Emotionally, I think it went into emotional intelligence and emotionally abusive parenting. I think that's what it was. No, emotionally immature parenting. That's the phrasing. Emotional immaturity and emotional intelligence. So if you haven't seen that video, I'm just gonna give a refresher on what boundaries looks like, what it sounds like. So I have a list of affirmations here that I think, if you listen, it might feel empowering to you to understand, what boundaries are. A lot of us have been like gaslit into thinking that if we love a certain way that we shouldn't have this type of boundary. Sometimes people guilt trip us into doing things we don't want to do, but like when we really love ourselves, we have boundaries, and that, people don't necessarily treat us the way we expect to be treated. They treat us the way we, in a sense, allow them to. And I don't mean that in a condescending way, like you're purposely allowing it. It's just like, sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. Okay? So here we go. I have the right to set limits. I have the right to set limits on your hurtful or exploitative behavior. I have the right to break off any interaction in which I feel pressured or coerced. I have the right to stop anything long before I feel exhausted. I have the right to call a halt to any interaction I don't find enjoyable. I have the right to say no without a good reason. I have the right to be I have the right not to be emotionally coerced. I have the right not to be your rescuer. I have the right to ask you to get help from someone else. I have the right to not fix your problems. I have the right to not let you manage your own self-esteem without my input. I have the right to let you handle your own distress. I have the right to refuse to feel guilty. I have the right to emotional autonomy and mental freedom. I have the right to any and all of my feelings. I have the right to think anything I want. I have the right to not be ridiculed or mocked about my values, ideals, or interests. I have the right to not be bothered by how I'm treated. I have the right to not like your behavior or attitude. I have the right to choose relationships. I have the right to know whether I love you or not. I have the right to refuse what you want to give me. I have the right to be, I have the right not to be disloyal to myself just to make things easier on you. I have the right to end our relationship even if we're related. I have the right not to be depended on. I have the right to stay away from anyone who is unpleasant or draining. The right to clear communications. I have the right to say anything as long as I do so in a nonviolent, harmful way. I have the right to ask to be listened to. I have the right to tell you my feelings are hurt. I have the right to speak up and tell you what I really prefer. I have the right to be told what you want from me without assuming. I have the right. Okay, hold on. I have the right to be told what you want from me without assuming I should know. The right to choose what's best for me. I have the right not to do things if it's not a good time for me. I have the right to leave whenever I want. I have the right to say no to activities or get-togethers I don't find enjoyable. I have the right to make my own decisions without self-doubt. I have the right to live life my own way. I have the right to take action even if you don't think it's a good idea. I have the right to spend my energy and time on what I find important. I have the right to trust my inner experiences and take my aspirations seriously. I have the right to take all the time I need and not be rushed. The right to equal importance and respect. I have the right to be considered just as important as you. I have the right to live my life without ridicule from anyone. I have the right to be treated respectfully as an independent adult. I have the right to refuse to feel shame. I have the right to put my own health and well-being first. I have the right to thrive, not just survive. I have the right to take time for myself to do what I enjoy. I have the right to decide how much energy and attention I give to other people. I have the right to take time to think things over. I have the right to take care of myself regardless of what others think. I have the right to take time and space necessary to nourish my inner world. The right to love and protect myself. I have the right to self-compassion when I make mistakes. I have the right to change my self-concept when it no longer fits. I have the right to love myself and treat myself nicely. I have the right to be free from self-criticism and enjoy my individuality. I have the right to be me. Okay, and there was another thing that I wanted to share. Oh yeah, so when your heart is more open, you just kind of have an intuitive sense on how you should handle your relationships to other people. Versus like, what's it called? Like social norms or social expectations or external expectations. Like you self-honor what you need. Okay, so you're choosing alignment over obligation, and you're choosing intuition over societal norms, You're choosing peace over external expectations. So you have a soul understanding over personal closure, and in doing so, you set yourself free. You choose to like forgive without a reason. Okay, and another important thing is just to just not necessarily allow like the low vibration or low awareness of others to bring you down into the vibration of judging them, because that brings you down. Okay, so not everyone is like going to understand, and this is why it's very important that you keep your boundaries. It's very important that you're aware of how you react to things. Now everyone has there's different types of love. There's different perceptions of love, and there's a love that you prefer. Okay, so there's a show that I want to share. So there's this show, I think it's on Amazon. It's a show, it's called Undone. And it really displays this beautifully as far as perspectives and perceptions of love. So there's this family that, is, has a shadow of grief because their father passed away a long time ago when they were young. And it became this whole like family drama like later. And I highly recommend you watch the show because it's very spiritual, in a more scientific way, but then it also becomes more spiritual. And I started to notice that in the beginning of the series, I think I don't know how many episodes it is, but it's quite a few, several. The main character reacts the way she perceives like her mother and her older sister are responding to her, and it just like the way that a person speaks or the things that they say isn't always what they mean. This isn't what I'm saying. I'm not saying make excuses. The difference here was that the main character found out later that she wasn't necessarily making excuses for what her mom and her older sister were saying, but she found out that her reaction to that is what actually prevented things from escalating in a more angrily way, which is it was very interesting to look at it that way, because in the beginning I thought like, the way she reacted was kind of justified because it seems like they're really being condescending, but like it turns out that her older sibling and her mother just didn't know how to like express love the way the main character preferred it to be. And in this show, the main character has a way to like go through time and go and start to see other people's perspectives and starts to see the bigger picture. And she goes back to that beginning where, she was having a really hard time with her sister and mom. And instead of reacting the way she normally would, it in a weird way, it's like she understood what they were really trying to say. And the next thing she said was different from what she initially did, which causes more fighting. And she recognized that it was love, but it just was love that was expressed in a different way. And the show didn't really clarify that. But I saw this and I recognized this and I thought that was so interesting. And and sometimes like it really is like that, where she could have been angry back at them like she did normally, and then it would cause more fighting and more separation and more pain, and that would cause more problems, right, between her and her family and everything. And then she would feel more misunderstood, and she would feel more alone, and she would feel more unloved. But then she reacted differently, and then it shifted the whole future of that conversation, and it was actually embraced with love, versus like the way she would have normally done it. And that was inspiring, um, at least for me in the end. um, and it just made me kind of reflect, like, people say things either they don't really mean, or they say things and they don't know how to express love in a way where maybe they feel comfortable with it, or they don't know the way that you prefer your love. um, and it's really strange, because it almost seems like it puts more pressure on you and how you interpret, to have peace or to create peace. And regardless, like, how you want to deal with that, it's either like you want to walk away, or you want to ignore it, or you want to judge the person and get angry back, and then cause more fighting. Or it just amazes me, like, how easy it is to misunderstand a person and to be misunderstood. And it's like, seems very difficult to kind of be understood too, and it's like, it's very strange. um but this just kind of made me realize that perhaps, like, love is still present. It's just like through the surface level, like, dialogue and conversations with people, we may not see it as love, you know um but to them, they feel they are being loving. To them, it's showing that they care, right? um and it's very interesting. When I got to see that, I was like, I think that made me think a bit, as far as like our social interactions go and our conversations go. um and like, and our emotions and how we react. And it's very important that, regardless, if you want to, I don't want to say, I don't know, I don't want to sound strange when I say this, but like, this kind of makes me believe that, to some extent, and I guess there might be some exceptions, but like, I don't think anybody doesn't love. It's just like shown in a way that, like, we don't prefer that kind of love, but it's like, it's still love. um so like, this might even explain why, like, even like toxic relationships, like, there's still some love there, because it's like, there would have to be, otherwise there would be like no pain, you know that keeps you stuck in the relationship, or the separation withdrawal, I guess. And I don't know, maybe some people could be like, well, that's not love. It's, I guess I'm talking about different kinds of love. Okay, I'm just talking about love, but it's expressed in a different way. But like, at the core of it, like, it's still love. But like, this is what I'm talking about when I say, yes, it's love, but what is the love you prefer? And also that you have your own love to honor yourself and your own boundaries in a way that's healthy between you and another person. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's love, but use your common sense kind of thing. Um, so this kind of made me think, like, even if, I'm not particularly, close to my own parents or my own siblings, I don't necessarily have to believe that I am unloved. It's just like, either the way they express their love, or maybe the way I express my love, is just different from what they prefer. Or it's just they don't know how to express it. Or maybe it's just like my misinterpretations or my reactions to it is what can actually cause a bigger rift to begin with, even if it was not even intentional. So it was like, it was pretty eye-opening, when I saw this, right? Um, So I don't know. It was pretty interesting, and just kind of made me think, like, in a weird way, like love is everywhere, and even if, like, it looks like it's the opposite, to some extent, like it all at one point is love, and it all came from love, and like the pain that a person can feel that causes them to, like, maybe be like, have these, like, bad behavior or negative emotions or negative actions, like, it's the pain from that caused that dysfunction in a person. But the only reason why there was emotional pain there is because you feel that pain because it's a separation withdrawal, because you actually prefer to be whole. And that's what emotional pain is. It's the pain of separation. And I think that's what it is on all forms. Um, I mean, I'm still learning and understanding exactly, how to grow on this more. And, that's just a perspective. I hope I made sense. Um, but this just kind of shifted my perception where, like, I don't have to believe that I'm not loved. Um, it's just like I prefer a different kind of love, you know. Um, so in other words, this kind of made it easier for me to forgive. It also made it easier for me to forgive because, I believe in self-forgiveness, and I believe that if I am to give that to myself, I must give it to others. That's just like a value that I live by. I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't have that value, because I don't want to tell you like how to forgive and how not to, but that's just like um, my own thing, that I chose to believe in. Um, okay, so am I done talking about this, or where am I going? Okay, yeah. So this means like you can have love for a person, but you can also have the self-honoring and self-love to decide for yourself. Um, is this a person that you want in your life, or this is a person you should stay away from? And in doing so, that is recognizing the love that is there, that is refusing to go into the judgment of believing that this person doesn't have love or doesn't love you anymore, or that, there is no love, period. There's just no love, and because of that, you don't have to be judgmental of what that person says or does or anything, because you realize, like, wait, this is love at its core, and I don't want to judge love at its core because I love love, you know, and I don't want to judge, because if I judge that person, then it makes it harder for me to forgive. Then my ego goes in a loop, and then I don't have any peace, and then I go into like a lower vibration of what that other person is vibing at. And I just got to say, like, not everyone's going to have the clarity, to understand how you feel or what's important to you or what you have to say. Not everyone's going to understand that. Not everyone's going to have that awareness. Not everyone's going to, like, apologize and make up. Like, there's these ideas of, like, what closure looks like, what healing looks like. Like, some people believe, like, I can only forgive unless the other person apologizes. And if they don't apologize, if they don't mean it, then I'm going to choose to be angry, and that's on you if you want to think that way. I'm not telling you it's bad or it's wrong. I'm just saying, deal with it your own way. I'm just saying it like that. But, like, I don't want to sound insensitive. But the thing is that, like, what I'm trying to say is that you already know there's love there. So you don't need an apology to forgive and move on, because you know it's love. But you do know from your own self-honoring and your own wisdom that, if this person should stay in my life or not, if I should have boundaries with this person, or if I should, cut them out of my life, if it's time to cut the etheric cords that I have with them, all that past information and all that past trauma, or that misunderstanding, or that fighting, you can clear away that energy, because you're ready to do that, and you're ready to move on from that chapter, if that makes any sense. And I hope I made sense. But like I said, like ultimately it's like up to you to decide, you know, what serves your best and highest good, what relationships you should have in your life, and you know what your healing is going to look like, what gives you peace, or what you prefer to deal with, or what you prefer to have. Like I can't really tell you like what to do or what not to do, or like I think it's kind of insensitive to like tell a person to forgive if like they don't want to. Like if they don't want to, they don't want to. Like just leave it alone. They don't want to. You know what I mean? Like I'm saying, I don't want to tell anyone like what to do. But I also gotta say, you know, like make sure you also forgive yourself. Make sure you also have compassion on yourself. Make sure you have compassion on other people. And I don't want to make it seem like that, like, yes, like everyone kind of has a reason for doing the things that they do or saying the things they say, even if it seems contradictory, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it seems like betrayal. Like they have their reasons. And I'm not saying that because they have a reason, or that there's a reason for everything, that you make excuses for their behavior. I'm not saying that. Don't make excuses. What I'm saying is that at least you can understand that we're all learning, that, and that we're all growing. And, you know, to a large extent, there really is no reason, like for the same reason that, you know, we don't make excuses for a person's behavior, is like also the same reason that we don't judge them. That makes sense. Because the judgment is what gives you peace. Now, you know, using your caution to have boundaries is very important. And I spoke about that in another one of my shadow work videos. Okay, there's a difference, you know, between judgment and being cautious. All right. But this video's gone on for a very, very long time, so I'm trying to like think about if there's anything else I need to see or I need to write. Yeah, I think I mentioned enough. Give me a second while I figure out if I'm missing anything. Yeah, I mean, you know, I guess the main points that I want to make apparent is that for me to forgive and to heal from heartbreak and from grief and betrayal, I was not able to do that on my own. I guess everyone's going to have a different way of dealing with that, but I used magic to help me gain the clarity that I need, and that's what I'm sharing with you. You're welcome to do that or not, okay? Another thing is that you can have love for the person, and having love for everybody can give you peace. But this doesn't mean that you're going to allow yourself to not have boundaries. Okay? For cord cutting, I hope this might help some people more easily be able to move on from these old stories of how they identified with their pain, how have they identified with being angry or holding grudges. You know, I have a different way of dealing with things, but this is how I did it. It was very important to me, and it's my mission now to really open my heart as much as possible and to stay within an open heart center. And I recognize that, you know, emotional pain is just separation, withdrawal. And for you to like find your wholeness is to recognize like love is everywhere. Even if it doesn't look like it. And I don't know, you know, that was just enough for me and I don't know how to describe it. It's not really like a mental thing. It's an emotional thing. It's a feelings thing. You know, like even though I could talk and I could say words and it might sound kind of wise, like the biggest important thing is like this is something I felt. And because I felt that way, it gave me the clarity. It gave me the closure. It gave me everything I need that my grief and my separation withdrawal made me believe that in order for me to have this wholeness, I need to have. Oh, I don't know what happened to my computer. Um, but yeah, I don't need to have things to heal. I don't need to have things happen in a certain way. I don't need to have closure a certain way. I don't like forgiveness and healing doesn't have to look a certain way. I don't have to expect from another person. Instead, it's just unconditional love and just having boundaries and self-honoring myself. And and that was good enough for me. I don't know, maybe if I go through another problem that I get stuck at, I can still learn and expand, how to heal from that. And I guess there's different levels, right, of grief. There's different levels of pain and suffering and emotional withdrawal. I'm not saying like this is everything or it's enough, but this is how I moved on. This is how I healed from heartbreak and betrayal and from grief. Um, yeah, I hope this made sense, but like the biggest point is that this was a feeling that I had and I was open to receiving the clarity and the wisdom. Like I wasn't holding, how do I say, like humility. Like I had humility to like do the magic, ask for help, receive the download, be open to it, be open to sharing how I feel, having the right friends to talk to, and just like my general willingness to forgive, even if I didn't know how, my general willingness to overcome grief, even though I didn't know how, like just my willingness to try to get back to love and try to get back to peace was something I decided to pursue, even though I did not know how to do it. Um, and at a certain point, it's like I realized like I couldn't do this on my own, so I just reached out to magic to help me, and especially because of my dysregulated nervous system, that also made it very hard. Um, at the time. So that's how I returned to inner peace and compassion. That's how I that's how I did it. It's just my ego mind doesn't even need to get involved. I just be love, and I just be non-judgmental, and and I try to stay within my heart center, um, and I do whatever I can to expand the power of that, and my love becomes a more like a cosmic love, like a multidimensional love, like a ubiquitous kind of love that like kind of sees beyond like superficial layers of what love is or what love looks like. And I've recognized and I made distinctions between like love that I prefer versus like the misunderstanding of like how other people could show it and how I receive it and how I choose to interpret it. Um, and that just made it easier for me to like to know like I am still loved, even if it's not the love I prefer, that there's still love there. um, but it's like I have the right to decide, if that's not the love I want, like I don't have to engage with it if I don't want it, if it doesn't feel right to me. um, all right, so let me check if there's anything else. Yeah, just like generally, like opening up your heart chakra just makes all of this a lot easier. Like honestly, um, yeah. You know, I guess there's different ways to open a heart. There's different ways to heal. There's different ways, you know. So my way isn't the way you have to do it, and my perception isn't the way you have to do it. Or, but this is how I did it. So anyway, I will end this video. I'll see you later.